To me, one of the dirty, dark secrets of Hollywood.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most outrageous crimes and illicit activities Hollywood studios and movie makers never truly got punished for.
When there is an accident, it's hushed up too quickly. Too many accidents you've never heard of.
Number 10, substances included in the budget. It's no secret that Hollywood actors aren't always angels. However, some of their vices were actually carved into their movies' budgets.
Probably the Jaws 3D. Probably
Jaws
for
3D?
me personally.
Really?
That
Just
would
a
be
blowout.
Yes.
Yes, a blowout.
Yes. Had to get that shark some way.
Yes, exactly. A blizzard.
Yeah.
Actors Dennis Quaid and Dan Aykroyd have both spoken about the cavalier, if not incentivized, substance use that occurred on movie sets of the era. Many movies made in the 1980s had clandestine cocaine budgets, which was essentially cash set aside for the purpose of rewarding stars and film crews for their hard work. You could call it creative accounting. Outside of Hollywood, it's called a felony. Quaid was just one of many actors who developed a substance use disorder during his time as an actor, and with practices like this, it's safe to say he's not the only one.
There was a completely different attitude about it back then, and even in some movie budgets. But I kept roaring on. I was basically doing cocaine pretty much on a daily basis.
Number 9, treatment of animals. Another long-standing and surprisingly prevalent practice in Hollywood has been the use and abuse of animals in films. As early as 1925's Ben-Hur, horses in various battle scenes have been harmed, if not killed, for the sake of the action. One of the most egregious may have been the Disney documentary White Wilderness, whose heartbreaking scene of lemmings jumping to their death was actually staged by producers.
Ahead lies the Arctic shore, and beyond the sea. And still the little animals surge forward.
Their deaths, however, were very real. You'd think this kind of thing wouldn't happen anymore. However, contentious allegations of negligence with animals still occur in Hollywood.
It's something that actually is a kind of a dirty, dark secret in Hollywood. But just about anybody who works in the industry knows that there's virtually no real meaningful protection for animals in the movies.
Number 8, the casting couch. In 2017, Harvey Weinstein became the face of Hollywood's #MeToo reckoning, but he was just the tip of the iceberg.
I absolutely feel that with this sentence and the length of it, that more women will feel empowered to come forward and seek justice.
Weinstein continues to deny all accusations of non-consensual sex.
For much of the movie industry's history, studio bigwigs, directors, and producers abused their power over performers. Women were especially preyed upon, promised roles or stardom in exchange for sexual favors, and threatened with professional ruin if they refused.
And I was thinking, this is so strange. Why would I need to do that? But this is the director. He is talking. There's the casting director.
It must be normal.
Although some say the practice became less prevalent after the fall of the classic studio system, Weinstein and others like him proved that the casting couch was alive and well in modern Hollywood. For many, refusing to submit to a powerful figure's advances cost them their careers.
I'll never get a job like this. He said, well, I've had them all, and nothing will become of you. And I said, that's okay. I said, I'm a dancer anyway. But I'll never get a job like this.
Number 7, shooting downwind from a nuclear testing site. Although workplace safety should be top priority, that's not always the case. One horrific example is the set of The Conqueror, a dismal epic starring John Wayne as Genghis Khan.
I share your taste in women, Targetai, but not in blood. Farewell, Tartar woman.
Unfortunately, that wasn't the worst thing about this movie. In the years following its location shoots in Utah, nearly half of the cast and crew developed cancer, and many died. Turns out its desert scenes were shot downwind from a nuclear testing site.
The nuclear contamination began to show grim results in the years that followed. Out of a crew of 220 people, over 90 of them were diagnosed with cancer, and half of those died of the disease, including Wayne, Powell, and co-stars Susan Hayward, Agnes Moorehead, and Pedro Armendariz.
Lingering radiation and fallout from the Nevada National Security Site's 1953 nuclear weapons tests have been blamed for these premature deaths. It's hard to know where to lay the blame, as RKO Pictures knew about these tests, and the government had told them it was safe. It remains a tragic Hollywood fable.
What say you of my prize, Jamuga?
Richer than you dreamed, my brother.
Number 6, Attack of Patricia Douglas. In the mid-1930s, Patricia Douglas was a dancer and an extra in various movie musicals. She was one of many young dancers invited to a studio party thrown for MGM's out-of-town sales force.
They were called to a studio, they were told they were working in a musical number, and these girls were bused to a remote location. They sat and waited, there were no phones, there was no transportation, and the night got darker, and these 282 salesmen arrived.
One of these salesmen, David Ross, attacked and sexually assaulted Douglas. She bravely filed charges against him. However, MGM closed ranks to protect Ross, bribing witnesses and working overtime to drag Douglas's name through the mud in court and in the media. Even longtime friends dropped her, afraid to jeopardize their careers in the industry. Douglas is credited with being one of the first women in the film industry to expose the systematic predation rampant within it.
The only thing I can remember is this David Ross's face. Of course, as I was in my nightmare for many years, I could not get him off my mind and what he had done to me. He took my innocence.
She would have to wait many, many decades to be rightfully celebrated for her bravery. Number 5, Danger on the set of Noah's Ark. In 1928, Hollywood was still developing, and the bigwigs were about to get a huge and deadly wake-up call about workplace safety. While filming the 1928 epic Noah's Ark, the climactic scene recreates the biblical story of the Great Flood. Without the benefit of CGI, around 600,000 gallons of water were used in the scene.
During the scene, there's just water being dumped on people and dumped on animals as well.
Yeah, it was really a fiasco.
Between the rush of water and the thousands of extras, chaos ensued. Although the allegations that 3 extras died during the scene might be specious, the staging was ill-advised. Director Michael Curtiz was warned of the potential dangers of unleashing a real-life deluge on actors instead of miniatures.
And when the audience sees the movie, they'll see this and they'll go, well, of course someone probably got hurt doing this. And Curtiz had this reputation for recklessness.
He would go on to make classics such as Casablanca. Number 4, Hitchcock's treatment of Tippi Hedren. When Tippi Hedren was plucked out of obscurity by the famous director, it was like a dream. She was a first-time film actress making her debut as the lead in his next big-budget suspense thriller, The Birds.
What do you think they were after, Miss
Daniels? I think they were after the children.
For what purpose?
To kill them.
Why?
I don't know why.
Using her inexperience and lack of industry power against her, Hitchcock moulded her into the icy blonde dream he'd always been chasing. Then he tried to cut her off from her friends and family and made several unwanted sexual advances.
It was a very uncomfortable situation, and I became very, very good at getting out I would always have somewhere to go, had to be somewhere, had something to do.
When Hedren refused him, he made her life a living nightmare. Due to his fame and clout, she had no recourse, and as a result of her exclusive contract with him, her career suffered.
He said, "I'll ruin your career." I said, "Do what you have to do. I'm gone." And he did ruin my career.
Her story wasn't widely told until years after Hitchcock's death. Number 3, Judy Garland's Torment. Every component of a classic Hollywood star's life was under the supervision of the studio who owned their contract. Some actors found ways to establish an identity outside of their star persona, but Judy Garland was only 13 when she signed with MGM.
And when Mr. Mayer heard her, he looked up and he said, "I want every producer on the lot to hear this kid. I want every director to hear her. I want every writer who's around on the lot to hear her. This kid is simply wonderful."
She was still a teenager when the studio began systematically destroying her self-confidence and pumping her full of uppers and downers.
Where do you get your energy? The same place you do, Dollface. Just like vaudeville, 6 a day, 7 on weekends.
Garland even acquiesced when the studio insisted she terminate 2 pregnancies, as they might disrupt her shooting schedule. Her treatment at the studio that made her a star also destroyed her life.
She just fought with the upper echelon, the authority, the people that were yelling at her, telling her to do this, telling her to do that, and she refused to do it.
The details of her tragic circumstances and substance use disorder are well known, but at the time couldn't be seen through all the glitz and shine of Hollywood glamour. Number 2, Roman Polanski's case. In 1977, the director Roman Polanski was charged with assaulting Samantha Gailey. Although he pled guilty to one of the very serious charges against him, he fled the country to avoid a lengthy prison sentence.
Roman Polanski has been on the run since 1978, avoiding countries that might extradite him. He hasn't set foot on US soil in 31 years.
Despite the arrest, conviction, and fleeing from justice, Palansky still has a prolific film career. Academy voters went so far as to nominate and award him the 2003 Best Director Oscar for The Pianist. He may not be able to set foot in the United States again, but if winning an Oscar isn't getting away with it as far as the industry is concerned, what is?
He won an Oscar for The Pianist in 2003. And had Harrison Ford collect it for him.
It wasn't until the #MeToo movement began that his own membership in the Academy was revoked.
So there's a lot of work to be done. It does seem like there's some sort of a resistance that's growing, especially among younger generations, but it's a very emotional issue, and a lot of people don't really know how to position themselves because they don't want censorship, they don't want this pitchfork mob, and at the same time they want to support victims and foster change. So
before we unveil our top pick, here are a few dishonourable mentions. Actor mistreatment on The Exorcist. Director William Friedkin's unconventional methods sound pretty cruel.
Do you physically attack people you work with?
There have been occasions.
Yeah, you slapped people before, haven't you?
A priest in The Exorcist. He was not an actor. He was a priest.
Connections to organised crime. Stars, studios, and unions sometimes relied on illicit money or pressure to get movies made.
Give Johnny the part in that new war film you're starting next week.
And, what favor would your friend grant, Mr. Wolf?
The William Desmond Taylor murder. The director's unsolved murder was complicated by studio interference and became a scandal.
When the police arrived on the scene, there were various people all over the house.
The studio personnel were running around, making off with all-important letters, documents, possible evidence, bits of clothing, muddling the murder scene.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. Deaths on the set of Twilight Zone, the movie. Director John Landis staged a Vietnam War action set piece for his segment in this 1983 anthology movie.
I'm American! I'm American! I'm American!
Horrifically, star Vic Morrow and 2 young performers, Micah Dinley and Renee Shin-Yi Chen, were killed when a helicopter crashed mid-shoot. There were already ignored labour restrictions to have the miners working in the middle of the night. Their parents even testified they had no knowledge explosives or a helicopter would even be used in the scene. Director Landis, who was heard to have told the chopper to fly lower during the scene, was one of 5 tried and acquitted for their part in the tragedy.
Our being found not guilty doesn't change the tragedy. It doesn't change the accident.
Although Landis worried his career would suffer, he continued to make films well into the next decade. Which of these crimes shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments.
Is everything okay? I said, no, it's not okay. I've been waiting a year and I haven't heard anything. What happened with him? Where is his accountability? And I'm sitting here and it's a year later. What have you done?